From Illinois Public Media, this is the 21st Show. I'm Brian Mackey. Today on the program, we'll talk with reporters who are covering the Illinois General Assembly as lawmakers return to Springfield for the first week of the fall veto session. But we start today with the latest on federal immigration and customs enforcement operations in Chicago. It's been more than a month since ICE started what it calls Operation Midway Blitz, and in that time, federal agents have arrested more than 1,000 people. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has tried to mobilize the National Guard in Illinois, including from other states. But late last week, a federal judge stopped that with a temporary restraining order. Melody Mercado has been reporting on all of this. She covers downtown Chicago and the West Loop for Block Club Chicago. She joins us now. Melody, welcome to the 21st Show.
Thanks for having me.
Listeners, in order to make our schedules meet, we spoke with Melody earlier this morning. So because of that, we're not taking calls live for this part of the show, but you can always let us know what you thought. Our email address is talk@21stshow.org. All right, Melody, how have you seen Chicago neighborhoods and the people who live in them affected by immigration enforcement in Illinois?
I think across Chicago, we have seen that neighbors are afraid to go to work. We have parents that are afraid to take their children to school. Um, Individuals that are even scared to do everyday tasks such as going to the grocery store. Midway Blitz has incredibly impacted Chicago neighborhoods from the individual to even predominantly Latino business corridors across Chicago. It has really impacted and touched everyone at this point across the city.
I saw one of your recent stories had the headline, "One month into Trump's immigration blitz, Chicago escalates its fight back." In what ways have you seen that?
I think we've seen this in a couple different ways. First, local leaders. Mayor Brandon Johnson has signed several executive orders trying to use his powers as the mayor of Chicago to the best of his abilities. And some of those executive orders, most recently, there was one signed where it bans ICE from using city owned and private lots and property for civil immigration enforcement. And we've also seen him sign executive orders protecting protesters' First Amendment rights. We've also seen, obviously, uh, Governor J.B. Pritzker suing the Trump administration in their attempts to send and deploy the National Guard in Illinois. I think those are just a few things here across the board that have been going on, but we've also seen local organizations really step up to help their neighbors in this instance, whether that is going out and getting groceries for individuals that are scared to do those everyday tasks, to helping parents take their kids to school. We've seen really at every level, whether it's the hyper local neighborhood block level all the way up to the highest level, the governor's office, really attempting to do what they can to protect undocumented people in Chicago.
And I don't know if you've witnessed this personally. I've certainly seen it on social media, but I guess people blow whistles when immigration enforcement officers are in the area sometimes. It's pretty striking video, what I've seen.
Yes, and this has been something that really started at the grassroots level. It really started off as how can we let people know that ICE is in their communities? Not everybody has social media, not everybody has the internet, but if we can make something synonymous with ICE, that is the whistleblowing that we've been hearing. I've been out a couple times where I've heard the whistleblowing, and I know that means that ICE is maybe down the street or down the block, and you see people activated as a result of that sound. And that's again just one of many grassroots initiatives to combat ICE.
You had the opportunity to speak with Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson for your reporting last week. What are some of the big takeaways from those conversations?
I think one of the major takeaways with Governor Pritzker is that he indicated that he still has some ammo up his sleeves here. He's looking at possible economic retaliation against the state of Texas for sending their National Guard to Chicago. He did not elaborate as to what that would look like, but it sounded like those plans are in the works. The mayor, of course, he has signed, like I said, several executive orders. There's a possibility that another one could be coming our way. Again, he's keeping a lot of those plans close to his chest. It seems like both at the city level and at the state level that there is a lot of planning going on to try to figure out what their next steps are going to be.
Maybe a brisket embargo. Okay, I probably shouldn't joke about this. Um, how have you seen other politicians, state representatives, state senators, aldermen, alderwomen responding to what's been happening?
We've seen older people across the city at the hyperlocal level responding to this. They are part of rapid response networks, which means those are the groups that show up when ICE is being possibly in a certain area of the city. So they go out and verify that. We've seen older people, and for example, Alderwoman Jessie Fuentes. She was actually detained by federal immigration officers after she tried to advocate for a man that was seeking care at a local hospital who was being chased by ICE. He fell, he broke his leg. People took him to the hospital, and immigration officials showed up at that hospital and tried to detain him. And the alder person showed up and said, "Do you have a warrant signed by a judge?" and started asking questions. She remained calm. The federal agents didn't like that. They detained her for about 10 minutes, then they let her go. In addition to that, uh, we've seen Illinois legislators try to get access to the Broadview ICE facility. All of those attempts have been unsuccessful, but again, at every level, we've seen officials trying, some succeeding, and others at least showing up in their communities and trying to use their power as an elected official on the federal level to try to see what ICE has been doing in Broadview.
All right, let me take a moment to remind people this is the 21st show. We're talking for the first part of our program today about the latest on ICE operations in Chicago. Melody Mercado has been reporting on this as downtown Chicago and West Loop journalist for the outfit Block Club Chicago. We taped this conversation earlier Tuesday morning, so no calls during this part of the show. Here's a line from one of your stories. The Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights received more than 1,000 calls to its hotline Friday, the most in a single day since it was created, as reports of federal immigration enforcement surged across Chicago and beyond. Melody, ICE agents have been in action in Chicago for months now. What makes the last month so different?
I think what makes the last month so different is that we've really seen specific deployment and attention on Chicago in the Operations Midway Blitz specifically. They arrived at the beginning of September, and we've seen them mobilize in large waves across the city. We've also seen Border Patrol arrive in Chicago as well. And we've really seen them on the Chicago River. We've seen them downtown patrolling neighborhoods, carrying their weapons. And that's something that really wasn't visible at the beginning of the year when Trump was first inaugurated. So I would say that this specific operation in Chicago, Midway Blitz, the past 30 days, a lot of it for the Trump administration has been about visibility. They want the nation to see that they are active and that they are detaining people in Chicago as part of Trump's overall initiative to ramp up immigration enforcement across the country, and specifically in Democratic led cities like Chicago.
Yeah, well, in another way, they're trying to make their presence felt and visible to their audiences elsewhere in the country is deploying the National Guard into Illinois. I mentioned that temporary restraining order against the Trump administration doing that. What maybe we can take this just both sides one at a time. On what grounds was the Trump administration saying it was doing this?
The Trump administration was using examples from protests at the Broadview ICE facility to say, look, things are out of control. I have no choice but to send the National Guard to help immigration agents be able to do their duty of carrying out immigration enforcement in Chicago. That was their overall mission and what was stated in the lawsuit. However, we have heard President Trump say that he wanted to send the National Guard to Chicago to solve crime. Although that was not initially stated in the lawsuit, the judge did bring that up throughout hearing arguments that she was a little confused as to why Trump was sending National Guard in Chicago because the public statements that he had made contradicted what was actually said in the lawsuit, which was a point of contention and overall one of the points that she mentioned when she issued the temporary restraining order.
Yeah, and so what was Illinois' response to all that? And I guess ultimately the key question is why did the judge rule the way she did?
The state argued that there is no emergency in Chicago, there's no rebellion, and actually that the presence of federal agents in Chicago was actually making protests worse. And they used a lot of video taken by protesters that showed that federal agents were actually escalating. And when I say escalating, I mean deploying tear gas into the crowd, shooting individuals with rubber bullets, and the judge took all of that into account when making her decision and issuing the 14-day TRO. She also said that, she rejected the idea that Border Patrol and ICE agents needed the National Guard to carry out federal law, stating that, hey, you guys have made all of these arrests. It's actually an increase. It is an increase of enforcement from the past couple months. You guys are able to carry out federal law perfectly fine. I don't see why you need the National Guard to do that.
Meanwhile, there was another lawsuit, this one filed against the federal government by news organizations, including yours, Block Club Chicago. How have, and I should say, it's over the way ICE agents have been allegedly targeting reporters. I guess I don't have to say allegedly. We've seen it on video. What is that about?
So Lock Up Chicago, in addition to several other organizations that are in this lawsuit, um, filed we filed this because four of our journalists have been shot with pepper spray bullets, tear and have been tear gassed by federal agents while covering protests in Broadview. And frankly, it's make it difficult to do our First Amendment right, which is to report the news.
And what has been the outcome? I know you haven't been directly covering that case as much as some of the other issues, but the judge basically told ICE to knock it off. I mean, I'm grossly oversimplifying here, but
The judge said in her ruling that whatever lawlessness is occurring is not occurring by peaceful protests and journalists, saying that some of the actions by federal agents were clearly a violation of the Constitution. So the order bars federal agents from using riot control weapons, including pepper spray bullets and tear gas, against journalists and protesters who don't pose a serious threat to law enforcement. It also prohibits agents from using physical force against journalists or arresting them unless they are suspected of committing a crime.
well, we're coming to the end of our time together. What are you going to be following most? What are you watching for most as these stories continue developing in the days and weeks ahead?
I think that we see the Trump administration is really looking for a loophole to still send the National Guard. And so I'll be following that. Again, the TRO lasts for 14 days. And so this is certainly not over. And I think that's the main thing that I'll be looking at. And then again, I'll be looking for, some of those economic retaliations that Governor Pritzker mentioned in our interview. I'm really interested to see how those would take shape and be applied generally.
Yeah. Well, Melody Mercado has been covering the ICE operations in Illinois and Chicago, specifically for Block Club Chicago, where she's the Chicago and West Loop journalist. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your reporting with us today, and thanks for doing the work you do.
Yay, thanks for having me.
Again, we spoke with Melody earlier this morning. Before we go to break, I want to mention our texting group, which you can join by sending the word TALK to 217-803-0730. We share some of the programs we're working on and invite you to send us comments or questions, which we then relay to guests and listeners on air. You can join again by sending the word TALK, T-A-L-K, to 217-803-0730. Once again, send TALK to 217-803-0730. 0730. You can also find out how to sign up on our website, which is 21stshow.org. Coming up after the break, the Illinois General Assembly is back in Springfield this week for the first of 2 weeks of veto session. We're going to talk to two of the reporters covering the State House about what lawmakers have planned. If you have questions, you can call 800-222-9455. We're live for the rest of the hour today, 800-222-9455. We're also going to be talking later in the hour about Ballet Folklorico, a celebration of Mexican cultural heritage with a group that's been going strong in the Quad Cities for more than 4 decades. This is the 21st show. Stay with us.